Nithyanandam everyone, it's the Kundalini Yogini. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, make sure to do so to follow my life of conscious living and teaching authentic yoga in the modern world. So today I am going to talk about addiction. This is a topic which I have not yet touched on at all, and it's something which really actually rings close to my heart and close to home. For those of you who don't know, I actually grew up in a household with an alcoholic parent and drug addicted parent, and a lot of my life and life issues and the biggest pain points in my life were surrounding substances and substance abuse. So I want to dive into this video of why it's so important, it's vital to understand what addiction really is in order to heal from it, in order to remove its power over our life, whether we are an addict ourselves or whether we know somebody we love who is one. And actually there's not much of a difference. Really you go through quite of the similar experiences and pain patterns that an addict goes through, just as a loved one of an addict also. So this video is for all you guys, whether you have a close family member who struggles with addiction or you yourself struggle with it. I want to bring a new light on what addiction really is. And this light was actually given to me, this enlightenment on this topic was given to me specifically by my guru, Paramahamsa Nithyananda. And he, over the last few years, I've been following his teachings, and truly, I can tell you that nothing has healed my life from this in any way, shape, or form comparatively to Swamiji's teachings and Swamiji's completion process, which I'll kind of touch on towards the end of the video. But my whole life, I mean, my Achilles heel, my biggest pain point was my family and all of the trauma and abuses that I went through as a child, that I witnessed my little brother go through, all surrounding drug abuse and alcohol abuse in our family, and how much anger that stirred up in our household, how much pain and violence. And I just want to share with you guys that actually I have completely healed from this and released this in my life, which is something I never thought I could say. Honestly, when I was in that situation, I felt like it was never ending. And it felt like death to me, you know, like going home, I absolutely hated it. And I actually went to therapy. My mom was pretty good about trying to take care of my mental health as best she knew how. So I actually was in kind of traditional therapy for a while with an amazing woman. I actually love her so much. She's not really a traditional therapist. She was a very spiritual woman. So she really understood our family and what we were going through. And she helped me to one level, definitely. So at least I wasn't bottling my feelings up. But a lot of that was still there. It didn't remove its power over my life. And only until recently, in the last few years, when I discovered the process of completion, that I realized I could take responsibility for everything that happened to me, including things that we don't want to take responsibility for, things like our own abuse, things like this that is so hard for us to comprehend how it was our responsibility, but really actually coming into a very powerful space with that word and what it means. So first, I really want to touch on what addiction is. In the understanding my guru delivers actually is, there's a few different things I want to cover. One is that addiction actually, it can be turned into a power. It can go from powerlessness to a very strong power for the person. And that's the good news. So if you're someone who struggles with this, it actually can be converted into something which can be your strongest quality. Why that is because Swamiji shared that people who have addictive personalities or who've been addicted to anything in their life, they've fully explored the depth of their being, and all of those kind of unknown parts inside of them, they've kind of dug that out. They've explored it because they've gone to the extremes. Now, for people that haven't gone through something like this, a lot of their inner space, even their own qualities and different sides of themselves, maybe you would say the dark sides of themselves, they've never willingly looked at. Whereas addicts have really dug into the depth of their being. Now, usually this actually channels them into powerlessness, and this is where the switch needs to happen. So, and Swamiji also shares why addiction starts to happen. See, especially with our modern youth, you might have noticed a lot of your friends or people your age, if you're younger like me, are very caught in substance abuse and needing a substance to make everything fun. Like, even if it's a simple activity, you have to add a drug or alcohol in there. Nothing can ever be done completely sober. And Swamiji was explaining the reason for this, which I found so fascinating and so accurate, was that because our generation is so dissatisfied with what society is giving us in our education system, in our government, our life is lacking meaning. So we're rebelling against the systems, whether it's our parents, whether it's the education system, whether it's the government, and we're seeking the answers elsewhere. And the only place as of now, the extreme of seeking that's available to us in the West is drugs. Specifically, especially psychedelic drugs, but even alcohol and weed. These are giving us some type of a conscious experience, and nothing else deeper has been introduced to us. So it's actually coming from a beautiful space of seeking more, seeking meaning. The problem is that will never be found in substances. And now the reason why somebody gets addicted to something is because the experience that they might have had the very first time they did something was actually not from the drug or the substance itself. It was from something which actually was happening as a byproduct of that. Some joy or happiness or fulfillment or depth they were experiencing of themselves. The problem is that we miscorrelate this experience to the drug. So what we do is we think by repeating the drug or repeating the drinking, we're going to get that same experience. And guess what? We never have an experience like the first time. Now, I really want you to think about this because I really feel this is so true. Like, the very first time you ever got drunk or the very first time you ever tried a substance or a drug could have been this out-of-world experience for you, this outer body experience, a really beautiful experience, something like this, or super fun. But if you ever do it again, it never quite matches up. And this is where the whole problem starts. Because that feeling you felt didn't come from the substance. The substance might have been a pathway for you to feel it, but it didn't come from that. And that's why, if you continue down that path, that feeling will never be recreated in you, because it has to be made naturally. And this is the pit that addicts fall into. So when we can really understand and have a compassion and love for not only ourselves if we are struggling with addiction, or for others who are struggling with it, it can bring so much of an understanding and a completion and a deep compassionate space in our being toward ourselves and towards others that are struggling with this. So from that perspective, it actually really gave me so much understanding of my family member who struggled with this so deeply, when I at first had so much anger. I had so much hatred inside of me because it was actually all just sadness and pain. I really took it personally, and I think this is the problem a lot of times with us kids who grow up in these households, is we somehow cognize that it's the substance is being chosen over us, that we aren't as loved as getting drunk is, or we aren't as loved as getting high is. We're not as important. And that unworthiness starts to manifest in us. And this is where we have to take responsibility, because this is not true and it's not reality. No one ever told us that was the reality. We only perceived it that way, and we created it that way out of our perception. And because an adult or somebody in our life that we love is being irresponsible with their decisions or is caught in this vicious cycle, has nothing to do with their love for us. And we like to think it does, but it doesn't. And we have to detach from that. And really, I can tell you, so much freedom comes from detaching from that. So that's just one step of the journey of healing from addiction in our life. But how we can really start to replace that addiction is by going inwards. And this is probably the scariest thing to most addicts out there, and most actually human beings in general, is actually looking inside of themselves at who they are. And yes, it's hard in the beginning sometimes. It's hard to face our demons. It's hard to see those unknown parts of us that we aren't comfortable with. But once you get past that and start to learn how to drop the judgments on yourself and on others, so much liberation comes in your being and so much bliss. When you can actually manifest that fulfillment in your own space without any substance, it is the ultimate liberation, and it's the ultimate high, actually. You'll never experience anything like it with a substance. And ways you can actually feel this feeling is especially through creativity. My gurus actually shared that feeling, that excitement for life and just being fully in the now, in the present moment, that an addict gets addicted to actually through substance. That's the feeling they're chasing. You can actually replace substance, especially with creativity. Because when we do the arts, for example, dancing, something really physical, painting, art, creation, it gives us that same space. It almost puts us in like a trance of being a pure vessel for consciousness to create through. So try that in your life as a technique. Really add creative aspects to your day-to-day life, and it can really help substitute these kind of things. But I think the really ultimate deep solution is doing full completion with yourself and with others for any pain which substance has caused you in your life. Really asking yourself the big questions: why I started to do this? What was the feeling I'm seeking? What was my very first experience which made me think I wanted to keep doing this again? Where are these cycles which I'm getting stuck? What part of me is feeling unfulfilled in my life where I need to seek it somewhere else? And when we really start to dig into this, we can start to find the answers. Now, I have a lot more to say on this topic, and I'm going to have to make more videos on this. But if there's one specific route or question you have in this topic, I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear your stories also. And I'd love to share more about myself with you guys if you're interested. I have a lot of experiences under my belt that I haven't talked about in quite some time. Actually, not because they hurt me anymore, but just because they're very redundant in my life, which is the good news. I've actually gotten to a place where they're very irrelevant to me now, which is something I really thought I'd never say. I feel so free from them that I actually don't think about them on a daily basis. But I know that really my story could probably help a lot of you guys if you're stuck in that situation still. So I would love to open up with you guys if you want to know more. I'm totally open for that. So please ask away. I would love to share with you. I've really been there and seen it all, so please don't be embarrassed of opening up. I know it can feel scary to share your story, and it feels embarrassing when your family has issues or you're not perfect, or you have issues and you're not perfect, but we are all in the same boat. Most people just are too afraid to admit it, so please don't be, especially on an online platform. You have a little more freedom, so definitely open up and start taking ownership of this. Heal it. Don't allow it to suck your life anymore. Don't allow it to suck your energy and your happiness away. I did this for too many years, just walking around with a giant weight on my shoulders at all times, feeling suffering for all the experiences I've had. That's so useless. Don't waste your time and energy and life on this anymore. So I love you all so much. Please reach out to me. I'd love to share more with you. I'll link some of my guru's videos below that can really help you have a big breakthrough with this topic. And I hope they help you guys along the way. So Nithyanandam everyone, and I'll see you soon.